We are coming to today's keynote, and we're going to listen to a very inspiring endeavor, and that endeavor is to change a country. Use TOC to bring a country on the red and green curves. And it's with great pleasure that I would like to welcome my friend Nerius Jasinavicius from Lithuania, who will present what they are doing in Lithuania to change an entire country.
Good morning, everyone. While we'll get our presentation up the screen, I want to say that it is really very, very big honor for me to stand here, especially after such a nice ceremony of the Lifetime Achievement. And what I'm going to tell you, it's maybe a nice story and maybe inspiring story, but basically it started as a joke. And only like a few days ago, when we were rehearsing this presentation, Mindaugas said to me, "Do you really understand what we got ourselves into?" I said, "Well, just another presentation." And then I realized that this is not another presentation. This is a presentation for TOC community. The TOCICO crowd, with the people, with I don't know how many years of the TOC experience overall here in the room. Carol, do you have any ideas? Probably hundreds, if not thousands. And we in Lithuania, we started it promoting TOC quite a long time ago, and then we realized that we did something quite interesting. So let's go into the story of our quest. Yeah, it sounds really serious. Our quest of putting or making TOC the main way of not only managing organizations, but the managing country. How it started. And I would say that there are only two people to blame for that. One person you know. And another one is my father. Why he is involved in this story, it's not because he's my father, but because in year 2000, he basically forced me to read the goal. I was just back from my MBA. I had a diploma from well-known European business school. So he said, and he was asked to write his comments to or introduction to Lithuanian version of the goal. And he read the file. It was not published yet. He read the file and he said, "You have to read it." And I said, "Okay, why?" "Oh, it's about production management." I said, "I don't have to, because I just graduated from MBA. I know everything in the world." Yes? These MBA guys. And just because I just graduated from MBA, and that was the period when I stayed with my parents. So my father said, "My house, my rules." And there was, like Ellie said, really, as Ellie used to say, that it was really democracy in our house. And you know what is democracy according to Ellie? It is the right to choose your dictator. So I had only two choices, to read the goal or to leave the house. So because I'm here, my choice was obvious. And my father, he was the first minister of industry for independent Lithuania, and then he started his own business. Now he's doing nothing, at least what I'm thinking. He sold his business. So well, on the other hand, he's not doing nothing. He's really heavily involved with TOC for education. He spends like lots of hours teaching students and school children this TOC basic tools, thinking tools. Okay, so what about Lithuania? Lithuania is 3 million people. Many of you heard the joke, Ellie's joke about 5 million Jews living in some kind of hotel. Yes? So we are 3 million, so we don't need a hotel. Motel is enough for us. Yes? We regained our independence only in 1990, so we are rather new country. And we are a member of European Union since 2004. As well, we have our currency, which is pegged to euro, and I've checked that our GDP, annual GDP, is just above 30 billion euro. So compared to the yesterday's keynote speaker, we are not much bigger financially as a Mazda. So, this is our national flag. We are almost TOC country. We need to fix something. The colors are not in the right order, but we are almost TOC country. And this is not a joke. Okay, another thing, you see, we are at the moment, our GDP looks like on the red curve, but if we compare to the European average or some outstanding countries, European Union, we're really still lagging behind. So, because my father, he was a little bit involved in politics, and he's an engineer by education, so he was always saying, you guys, you need to go with TOC to start helping to manage the country. And I was always saying, no way. Why? And yes, we have pluses and minuses. Why to go to the governmental institutions? First of all, you can really make something important. You can really make huge impact. And typically, the government is not the worst customer. Yeah? They pay sometimes quite okay. But on the other hand, typically the way government buys, it's the lowest price tenders. And if you want to win, and of course we never considered us cheap consultants, if you want to win, you can play with the tenders. But then it appears, you know, as a young country, post-Soviet country, there is a gray zone things and agreements. And we didn't want to be involved in this gray zone agreements. And of course, if you work for government, for any public institution, it's not so much about the results. Yeah? The major results for them is how much paper is delivered. Yes. And if you look, I've seen the projects done by some not very known consulting companies like Deloitte or Ernst & Young. And basically, well, if you compare how much government paid for the amount of paper, basically it's not very expensive consulting project, yes? Because they deliver really huge amounts of paper. And I'm not a big fan of paperwork. So again, at one Friday evening, it was 5 years ago, we were having just glass of beer or second or third glass of beer, almost like yesterday. And when they decided, and we had some discussion about that some American blogger wrote something, and then we said between us with our colleagues, well, blog is a good idea. Let's start writing something as a joke. We called our blog commonsense.lt, and we started to write articles about business mistakes, about business conditions, some case stories, and started to criticize some governmental decisions. Now we are the most popular business blog in Lithuania. Sometimes readers, they don't believe the official story in the newspapers. They always ask, okay, so what's the common sense as a name, opinion about that? Yeah. And this blog got us into the real trouble, and I'll tell you. Well, yes, we generate some leads for private projects, private sector projects, but it really dragged us into the public sector. In 2009, our president announced some competition, write a vision for the country. So again, we were having some nice party, whiskey degustation, tasting, and so on. After I think the third type of whiskey, we decided, okay, so let's do another joke, or let's have some fun. Let's write our vision. Yes, because when you had 3 bottles of whiskey, you really become a nice visionary. Yeah? Then we said, okay, we don't know how to create nice pictures, but we decided that the goal of the country should be happy people. And we remembered our discussions and Ellie's presentations and discussions with our other TOC people that there are only, like in the country, the 3 major areas where the government can have an impact: economy, education, and healthcare. And if you really want to make an impact, so you have to have the goal and you have to have the measurements. We proposed some measurements. Okay, for economy, the amount of jobs created in a country. Because every party in Lithuania, before elections, during the elections, after the elections, they were talking about reducing unemployment. That's a good goal, yes? Or not? What do you think? Reducing the unemployment, is it a good goal? Yeah, we have 1 million people working abroad. They reduced, Lithuanians, they reduced unemployment. And there is another way to reduce unemployment, yes? Have all unemployed people and just shoot them. When you put the goals and the measurements, you really need to think about that. And during some interview or some presentation or speech by Obama, I heard that he was talking about job creations. And then I thought, yes, amount of jobs created and active in the country, that's more important than the unemployment. And of course, the added value per job, because in Lithuania, we have any raw materials or anything to just dig from the ground and sell it. Yes, other countries are more fortunate, but not we. For education, we discussed again about what could be the measurement, and I've read the book by Nobel Prize winner Theodor Schultz, who said that the best measurement for how good education is, how much the salary of the educated person increases after he got the education. And health, well, in health it's really easy to measure how long you live and how much life, so how healthy you were during your life. So we proposed to set the measurements, set ambitious goals, subordinate everything, all the governmental sector organizations to those measurements. Well, our president, she didn't get the joke, so we were not selected as a winner. Okay? But our picture or image, what we want or would like to do in this area, started to crystallize. Then another joke or opportunity to have the joke appeared. In 2011, you know, Davos event, yeah? So they announced the competition, make a 1-minute movie with a presentation of how to improve the world, and the winner of that competition will go to meet all the world leaders and even to present to them. Our prime minister nor president were invited to this event. So then again, we said, well, who else if not us? It took us really long. I think we did preparation about half an hour. We placed the camera and we recorded our movie, 1-minute movie. It was my colleague Mindaugas speaking there. And we placed it on YouTube. We just placed the camera and recorded.
It's a fact that institutions, even governments, as well as people behave in the way they are measured, which means the right measurements are the necessary condition to rapid growth and people happiness. There are 3 main areas that countries should focus on. In the education, the growth of the creation of added value and the increase of salaries, which means the return on investment into education. In the healthcare, the length of life and the working age, which means how longer we live and how longer we are able to work. And in the economy, the amount of jobs and the added value per employee, which means how many people got employed and how much increased the value that we created. Using those measurements, any country should set specific targets in numbers due to their current situation and ambitions. All the outgoing strategies of the governmental institutions should be subordinated to the country target set. The targets should be publicly announced and publicly evaluated. The leaders should focus on them and track the performance on a regular basis. If the direction is stable, if the focus is kept, the people are condemned to get happier.
Okay. And again, Davos did not get the joke. We came second. The third place was, or the winner was selected, the guy who offered to just distribute 3 million mobile phones for free in Africa. Well, how much? Well, his assumption was that the major problems in Africa is because people don't have the access to internet. Okay? Well, I don't know how the project went. In Lithuania, we have one of the biggest mobile phones penetration in per capita in the whole world. It's like 2 phones per capita. But still, we are not the richest country or the most prosperous country. But tough luck. And by the way, on Saturday, I heard the Chief Marketing Officer of Angry Birds talking. Do you know the Angry Birds? Yeah. It's a really very, very famous product. It's a game. It's the fastest growing consumer brand. And they said, yeah, we were lucky. Our 52nd game took off. Yeah? So then I calculated how many jokes we made. We still have like 20 to go till something takes off. Okay, then because 2009 was really, really drastic year for Lithuania. Our GDP went down by 15%, 1.5. Yeah. So it was really economic crisis, and our government published the project of helping the business, promoting and supporting the business. And they published the project, how they will measure the progress and the goals and so on. And then we talked again during one of the lunches or dinners, and another my colleague, Audrius, published his article or post on the blog saying, guys, what you call the project and project progress is basically pure fertilizer, yes? Because this is not the way project management is done. After 2 days, I had a call from, at that time, Vice Minister of Economy. And the discussion is like, you think you're really tough? Yes. Really think you are? Yes, we are. Are you ready to take the challenge and prove it? I said, well, why not? I said, we have one organization which is really in a big trouble, and we want to improve that organization, but there are only 3 conditions. You can do whatever you want, but only 3 conditions. No operational expense increase, no investment, no people change. Or, easy. I said, yes, why not? So, we agreed. And this case was presented last year in Chicago. And I'll just run quickly because probably not everyone remember or heard that. It's about an organization called Guarantee Fund. This organization pays some money because when you are employed, you pay some percentage from your salary to the Guarantee Fund. And if your company gets bankrupt and company owes you some money, so this fund pays you the unpaid salary. And the problem was why there was the problem. In 2009, this is the amount of bankrupts. Yeah? This is the amount of applications received. And because of the budget cuts and so on, they had no possibility to increase the amount of people working. And they told me, as a secret, they said, well, the situation was not as bad. So we had possibility to increase amount of people. We tried. So we added more people. Results got even worse. Yeah? So the problem was that average length for analyzing application, and because not the person, but the bankruptcy manager applies or sends the application, and it was taking 388 days. So your company got bankrupt. Your company owes you money, which had to be paid by this state institution because you were paying every month. And they say, no problem. In 1.5 years, you get your money back. And everybody here knows what does it mean on average. There were some applications, it took more than 3 years to be processed. So, it is really, really typical situation for TOC, yes? When everything is almost impossibility, and you can do whatever you want, except no money, no additional people, yes? So again, we did some short analysis. It took us like 2 days. We presented our view what has to be done and possible areas, or not areas, but expected results for improvements. They said, okay, you can do. And then they commented, if we asked like Ernst & Young, we would be charged for such analysis at least 50,000 euros. So probably we are underselling ourselves somehow. So again, Audrius went there and did it there, really basic implementation. When I mean basic, just very typical basic things like reducing multitasking, full kit, yes, and like buffer management, priorities. Nothing really when you look at the tools, what has been done, it's nothing to write home about. And if not the public sector organization, probably we wouldn't be talking about that. But results. Before, we had 22,000 people waiting for money. After the project finished, and they continue, the average queue is only 1,200 people. Pending money, pending money, not 16 million euros waiting, but only less than €1 million. Average application lead time from 1.5 years to 2 months. With zero investment, zero increase in operational expenses, and absolutely the same people. And why it is key, especially in the governmental sector, because typically when I tell that story, especially from private sector, guys from private sector say, you kicked out all the stupid ones, employed the smart ones, and you got the results. No, people were the same. And then I started to think, probably, yeah, I know that all people are good, that's no doubt, but probably all people, or most of them, are smart enough as well. So that was the results. Again, on parallel, there was 2 significant projects. I did the training for about 200 managers in healthcare, and honestly, well, I think it will continue sometime, but it was the first time for them when they started to think about healthcare as a process. Because they, like the director or manager for the hospital, 500 people working in the hospital, I said, how many hours of proper or any formal management education you have? None. She was trained for 12 years of really deciding on the future of the one person. Yeah, she knew everything about the bones and muscles and everything. But she never, ever had any training about making decisions about the future of the at least 500 people. So for them, it was the really nice experience for me as well. But because they said, well, hospital is not a factory. I said, yes, because you call it a patient, and in factory we call it raw material. Yes, and we call it scrap in the factory, you call it a medical mistake, yeah? But basically, from the process point of view, it's almost the same. And my father really did a big project with TOC for Education. He and his small team, they really trained more than 2,500 people with the almost zero budget. Basic tools, cloud, negative and positive branch, and ambitious target. Yeah, and last spring we did supply chain conference, and we had quite a lot of TOC guys in Lithuania. And at the end of the conference, we had Minister of Justice just popped in the conference, had the talks to some TOC experts. And next day, we had a just nice, relaxed meeting with Minister of Economy. Yeah, so you see some guys, probably you know, Carol, Christoph, Bill, meeting our minister, now former Minister of Economy, and he's the guy who called us for this guarantee fund. At that time, he was deputy minister. And Milda, she is the head of the guarantee fund. And she was promoted to ensure knowledge and so on. So what happened? This is the snapshot of official Lithuanian government webpage. And it's saying that In this guarantee fund, we achieved 5 times faster analyzed process, and TOC ICO with TOC and TOC ICO helped us, and TOC sprendimai. Basically, this press release was the only payment we got for our implementation. Well, not the worst payment, although they said, let's start doing now because it is really big problem, and we will we'll find out how to pay you. When the results were achieved and said, well, maybe let's talk about payment, they say, well, another fiscal year, and we don't have the budget for that. But at least we had nice advertising for TOC and us. So we were inspired by the result. Then we did the public sector effectiveness conference. And in Lithuanian language, effectiveness and efficiency is the same word. So sometimes there is a problem. But we did effectiveness conference, and Milda, the head of the guarantee fund, was promoted, and she started the reform of business supervisory institutions. I will tell later. So, public sector effectiveness conference, we had really a lot of speakers. We had 700 people, 5 tracks, 27 presentations. We had Yuji, Greg, Odette, Patrick, Yelena, Christoph, Shimon, Audrus, myself doing the presentations, and some other local speakers presenting of what and how governmental institutions can be improved. And 99% of the participants heard term TOC for the first time. Yeah, we were not selling TOC, or we were not inviting people for TOC conference, but it was TOC conference. How we managed to have 700 people? Every state employed person got at least 3 emails from us. We managed to get the database, officially, legally, of every person with what he's doing and in which area. And we sent, basically we used the tools and techniques just in talks. Yeah? We managed to, for example, for the judges, there was absolutely different email than for any other institutions. Yes? And some people said, well, you were spamming. Well, when you spam, when you send spam letters, you don't get replies saying, sorry guys, I will not be able to attend because it has only 2 months notice. Please forward this email to my boss, and this is his email, just to make sure he goes there. Comments, well, we are different, it's too good to be true, we don't have budgets for that. Well, it was the wow event, but it wasn't the call for action. And we joked yesterday, if you really need to create the wow event, we know how to do that. It doesn't mean that it will generate the sales leads or move your customers for action, but it can be a wow event. And Milda, together with support from ministry, started the reform for business inspectorates. In Lithuania, we have like 35 different organizations who can come and check the business. Healthcare, fire, job safety, and any other, and social security, and so on. So basically, the goal was to move those organizations from punishment institutions to consultancy. And of course, again, the first step, clear goal, let's set the measurements. Good idea. And they said, we don't have the budget for you, your consulting. And we already know, we've been here, we presented for TOC ICO, we know almost everything. So they created the management system with 15 measurements. Yeah. Do you think it will work? No. So the reform froze up. And they invited us quite recently, oh, help us, because for 1 year nothing is happening. So we went through their some reservations and BRs and obstacles. And for example, one of the clouds they've made with some our help, how many inspections or how many times we need to go to check the business entity? On one hand side, we really need to make sure there is no non-conformance incidents or non-conformance events, so we need to check quite often. But any inspection, any checking, visiting business is a disturbance, yes? So if we don't interrupt business, if we do not want, because business is not created for working for inspections, yes? So we need to carry out few inspections. And there are some assumptions behind that. They still don't have the win-win solution to that, so if you have any ideas or experience, please share with us during the breaks. Another cloud was what measurement to set for inspection. Because on one hand side, basically we are really caring about the impact. If this is the fire department, yes, firefighters department, basically it shouldn't be measured any other goals except that it as less as possible fires in the businesses. But then they say, yeah, we understand this is important, but it is not affected only by us. There are other institutions who can have the impact. So should we measure that or not measure that? Again, how many requirements? Do we need to be really precise? Just to make sure that nothing or minimize the possibility of anything happen? Or we really understand that, okay, if we have very difficult requirement list, so nobody will start the business. So to have many requirements or few requirements. And we, talking with them, we shared with the experience, or we had some information from state of Utah. Greg shared with us with their quality throughput. But again, how you measure quality throughput when there is basically the goal of the institution is to make sure nothing happens. Yeah? So basically, how you measure the quality throughput there. So again, what kind of measures to use? And there, it was there is still some dilemma. Okay, but then again, we started to talk with about the measurements, and when we decided that let's put, first of all, not the measurements for the smaller organizations, but let again try to put some measurements, key measurements on the country level. And how to implement the measurements on the country level. And we decided to focus, first of all, on economy. Why economy? Because when we had the last, well, not the last, but the 3 years ago conference in Las Vegas, and we had a chance to have like 2-hour talk with Ellie, and we talked about some country management and so on. And he said, let's start from business. I said, why? Because, yes, money is not the goal of the country, but it's really necessary thing. So put your economy in order, and then you can really put the other things in order. So we decided to push on the country level these two economical measurements. Not as typically the statistics department gives you plenty of those. Okay, and last year in December, the government changed and the new Minister of Economy was appointed, and the problem was that she is not very popular person. And when I say not very popular, it's really understatement, yeah? But she asks us, okay, if you know how to do some things, especially with the internet marketing and public relations, so come and help me. And there was a small dilemma. if we want really to have some changes on the high country level, we need to go to politics. But, you know, politics is not the nice area to be, yes? And some different games played, and again, there was some risk for reputation, but then we decided, okay, you cannot make an omelet without breaking eggs, so we went there. Of course, we set our standard, business standard, only transparent relations, no gray zone agreements. Well, we checked what if reputation, and of course, we had lots of bad comments on our blog and in other websites that we really betrayed our country to helping that legally elected government. Yes, it's strange comments, but again, we thought that usually people who write the comments on the internet, they are not the decision makers, so it's not a big risk for our business in private sector. Yeah? So we delegated our close teammate to the political team of the minister. The wife of Mindaugas, she was really involved a lot in the TOC for education. She went to become an advisor to the minister. But we got the public promise from the minister that she will make sure and she will implement the procedure of collecting and announcing these two measurements on the monthly basis. How many jobs and the average value created, added value per job. Well, nothing really. Everybody said, why you are so focused on these two things? It is already available. And I said, yes, where? In our country. And if you say it is available, where? And suddenly they realized that for 20 years, nobody knew in one place how many jobs there are in Lithuania. So it took approximately 5 months. Why? Because different institutions were measuring different things, and none of them were measuring really how many job places are. And you know, the fights between the governmental institutions, who is more important, who has to delegate to whom, and yes, we agreed, but please send us the right official letter. And you send the letter, and they say, no, 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 it is not the right text in there, because the words should be arranged differently, and so on and so on. So it took almost 5 months, and the minister was supporting us all the way. But to tell the story short, yes, the minister has resigned yesterday. But luckily, 2 weeks ago, we managed to have this procedure started. I'm not sure how it will continue, but we started. And we know exactly that for in March, we had 1,110,640 jobs in Lithuania out of 3 million people. Okay, therefore we, again, now jokes getting more serious and serious. Now we started to focus more and more on implementing the measurements in the state or governmental institutions. Why? Why we think the measurements are the way, it's our assumption, this is the way to get into the public sector. Why? Because when you have clear and logical measurements, and you start to ask from politicians and public state managers for improvement, we all know that there is no better methodology as TOC to have those improvements quickly with the lowest amount of investment and so on. So now we are pushing more and more for the measurements, and we have some supporters among the ordinary people for the measurements.
Measurement requires an intense focus, but it can make a huge difference. Foreign aid is more impactful today than ever before. We adopt programs that we can actually measure whether or not they're working. Are we getting the bed nets out? Are people getting the ARV medicines? Is the farmer's productivity going up? Well, in the case of polio, you want to go back and see, did the campaign get 90% of the children? Okay, which vaccination teams did their job, which did not? You can constantly see, where are you making mistakes? What do you need to change? So in contrast to several decades ago, where it was equally well-meaning, now it's more like a business where you know the numbers, you often see what you have to adjust, and that's letting us make huge progress. It'd be a shame if those resources were reduced at a time when they really are making such a huge difference. I'd love to have you read my annual letter, and if possible, give me feedback.
Okay, he presented that message for the Davos, yes, in this year Davos. So, okay, he copied us, and he managed to get through. Okay, well, but as long as we delivered that message. So we wrote him an open letter, and it was published on our website and in our some business magazines. But in order to make sure he really reads it, we'll publish it as an iBook, available only for iPads, yes? So it will be available in Apple Store quite soon. And if you know, somebody from here knows him personally, please forward that message to him. Yeah? But basically what he was saying, that again, measurements is really, really, really important. Okay. So, and by the way, this iBook will include some CRT of some random country. But again, let's make another joke. Not everybody here is from European Union, so I'll just tell you, because in European Union, we have a democracy. That means every half a year, the chairmanship changes. So from the second half of this year, Lithuania will be chairing European Union. And there will be plenty of different conferences and events, and all those guys, you know, different influential guys, will come to Lithuania. So let's use that again as a chance to promote TOC for European Union public sector. How? We have two conferences coming. One is organized by International Council of Management Consulting Institutes. Well, you know, there is, surprise, surprise, there is organization for management consultants. Yeah? And the first, their annual conference will be in Vilnius, and it will be really tied up to the opening of the presidency. And second one is still the only thing we know, is the date and the premise, European Public Sector Effectiveness Conference, and organized by TOCICO. I'll give you a few details later. So, West and East in Change. This is the Consulting Management Conference. There will be the management consultants from around the world with some program and discussions and so on. By the way, you see some familiar faces as speakers, because when organizers said, well, we need to talk about the implementation, and the management consultants should not only write the papers, visions, missions, strategies, but do some proper work. So probably we need to have nice presentation on that. And who can do that? Okay, Nerius, do you know some TOC guys who can present? So Odette will be presenting on the implementation is the king. And if you want to join us there, this is the link. You can download or connect and register. And the second conference we are planning to organize together with TOCICO. We know exactly. It is 24th of October. Yes, it will be in Vilnius, Lithuania. And we know how to sell as a conference the good content. We think that we will get the emails of every European Union public worker. And we will send the invitations to them as well, or at least the major ones. We know how to sell the good content, but we need to create the good content. And that's where we need your help. We're looking for presentations. Yeah? What kind of presentations? First of all, the case stories, which can be replicated. And yes, we all know that we are different, and anything would happen in, I don't know, Poland, it's impossible to do in Lithuania, because in Poland they speak Polish, and in Lithuania they speak Lithuanian, yes? But yes, we're looking for cases, case stories, any academic work, maybe some new developments and so on. Mindaugas, please, could you stand up? This is the guy who has the duty by the end of this week to have full agenda. So please help him to finalize. Okay, maybe not exactly full agenda, but we're really looking forward for your input. And this could be the really big push, and those two events will be published in the list of the European Union presidency events and so on. So this is the good opportunity to promote. And just, again, finalizing our story, which is, I would say, just a good start, yes? And we will continue to push. And we are getting the taste, and fun is getting bigger and more, and it's more interesting, more exciting. But first of all, I want to thank you, my team, my colleagues, who really helping me, and they are pushing. And sometimes when I say, why do they bother? And they say, because it matters. And they push me, and sometimes I have to push them for all what we do. And of course, I want to thank all my TOC teachers. And really, I tried to put the list with the pictures. Then I said, well, another 20 slides, maybe too much. But it's Odette, Yelena, Eli, Rami, John, James, and many others who really taught me some things on TOC. And I really want to thank you, TOC, ICO, for support during other conferences we had, for support with the material, with the context experience, and with the opportunity to share my experience here. And of course, thank you all the TOC community for creating and pushing the TOC as a way to manage not only organizations, but the countries as well. Thank you. And we are really looking forward for your contribution. Write to me or talk to Mindaugas. Thank you.
Well, they are, I just got the numbers. There are 46 countries represented in this conference. So, these results times 46. There are 27 countries in the European Union. So another 26 of these results. The United Nations count 193 countries as members and 13 things where they don't know if it's a country or not. Yeah? So there's a way to go, and we all have a good target here. And let me just present you, Nerius, with a small remembering one of these tiny countries out of the 193. And thank you so much for your presentation.